Hi everyone, and welcome back to the FantasyFootballFix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell. You can find me on Twitter at UtterlyTC, and welcome back to another Meet the Elite Team reveal. Now, in this week's video, we've got Mark Mansfield joining us. I'm super excited because it is double game week season, guys. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Hi guys, and welcome back to the FantasyFootballFix.com YouTube channel. As I say, we've got Mark joining us, and you can see there Mark's having a good season. So Mark, welcome back to the channel, mate. How's your season been going?
Hi Tom, thanks for having me back on. Season's been going quite well. Currently ranked 91,000. Overall, I'm not sure when I was on here last.
A few months back, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was around, I played my wildcard week 10, so I think it might have been around then. Things were going very well until my wildcard, and then things did not go well afterwards. Partly my own fault for signing players like Aubameyang.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I really had a bad time. A lot of things went against me, as well as my own decisions being bad. But I made a few moves that paid off. I got Kepa early. He kept me from having total disasters a few weeks. Castagna did well. And the fiasco at the end of the season, where we were all waiting on late team news for Manchester City and so on. I think that day where we all got the news that Haaland was out and we made moves, some people went through, some people didn't. In my case, my moves went through, but I thought they hadn't.
Oh gosh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, and it would have been better if they didn't.
Yeah.
So that was a really strange thing to happen. And I was quite disillusioned around that time. Not so much with, the technology and so on, just, with just the way the whole game had gone running into the World Cup. It was all about waiting for this team news, and it was just all felt a bit wrong. So glad to get into the World Cup, really switched off entirely from FPL.
Yeah.
And, then I was glad to get back, put a team together. And now we are where we are. The last 3 weeks have gone quite well for me. I've got, coming into game week 16, I was 105,000. So maybe picked up 15,000 places, which is, I'm pretty pleased with that.
As you should be, man. You're looking at their overall rank there. You mentioned sort of right around 91k, with what, like 50% of the season still going. I think we talked on the last week's video that people thought the lead up to the World Cup was the first half of the season, but it actually wasn't. It was less than half, wasn't it? So you're set really fair, aren't you, Mark? And you're looking at the ranks you've had over in the past, when we've looked at best ever finish being in the top sort of 300 there, top 250, with lots of top 10k finishes, 5ks and 1ks. Do you think you're looking at another rock solid season? What are the goals for the rest of the season from an overall rank perspective?
Yeah, obviously you don't want to get into jinxing things, but being realistic, I'm slightly ahead of where I normally would be at this stage of a season. I'd normally think that when you come out of Christmas and New Year's, I think you come out of game week 21 or 22, normally at that point. And it's around then I'd be hoping to be around 100,000. So you don't know what's going to happen, but I'd traditionally be better in the second half of the season. Okay. Plus, I think my team was in a bad way going into the World Cup, and I wasn't happy about that whole break when it was initially announced, just from how I usually play the game point of view. But it worked out well for me because I'd made a mess of my team.
That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because we
allowed me to reset it.
Yeah, well, it was a de facto wild card, wasn't it, over the World Cup with the unlimited transfers. So hopefully the guys watching had the same chance and took the same opportunity to, reset the team and set themselves up for the second part of the season. And looking at your chips available, Mark, you've got heaps of them available. Obviously, you mentioned using the first wild card. And look, we'll probably talk chip strategy in a bit because, guys, we are recording on Sunday night. It's around sort of 6 o'clock in the evening in England here when we're recording. And we've just had the news that their Game Week 20 has got more double game week considerations for us to factor into our teams, with the news that Man United and Crystal Palace both have a double game week in Game Week 20, with Palace having an away match at Chelsea and then a home match against Man United, and Man United having a home game against Man City in the derby, and then they're away at Crystal Palace. So let's ask Mark, what do you think in terms of chips for game week 20. Are you thinking that triple captain chip might be thrown into the mix?
Yeah, I think so. I think Haaland this week it's a good option. I mean, what we know is he, pending injuries, will play both, which we're not going to be guaranteed against easier teams.
No.
He will play both. We have no reason to think that City can't score against any team. The Spurs defense has looked very, very shaky. United better recently, but they did score 6 earlier in the season. And I think with Haaland, it's not so much about, the opposition. It's, do you think he's going to get 2 starts, 2 60-minute plus appearances? And the way it plays out in terms of other competitions and so on, this is the closest guarantee we would get to that, I think.
Yeah.
The alternative option is probably going to be Harry Kane or Salah. I think anybody who thinks they might captain Salah at some point is quite brave. I don't think he's got the let's say stats to back it up, or Liverpool aren't in the kind of condition to back it up.
No, they're not. No, you're right. No,
I think it's perfectly reasonable to triple captain Haaland this week. I don't know if I will. I haven't thought about it really.
No, I think people will start to, and I also think there's a not insignificant gap between fixtures, right, Mark? For between those Man City fixtures, it's not like your traditional Christmas doubles where you're asking them to play every couple of days. There is actually a few days gap between them, and like you say, those tougher fixtures, you'd expect Guardiola to start them, particularly bearing in mind they're only 5 points off Arsenal in a competitive title race, right?
Yeah, and we know Haaland is fresh.
Yeah.
I can't see any reason, barring fitness, why he wouldn't start Haaland in both these games. And if Haaland's starting, he can get double figures any game.
Cool. Mark, in terms of people watching, so that's what you're intending. Would you say there's any, for people who are, let's say further down the ranks, do you think it's worth a gamble in terms of other potential Man City assets, or do you think it's Erling Haaland irrespective of overall rank in terms of using that chip?
This week, I think yes. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm definitely going to do it right now.
No.
But De Bruyne was very good in the first game back against Liverpool, and the last 3 he hasn't looked to be in his top condition. So I have De Bruyne, but I have Foden as well. I wouldn't consider captaining either of those. The only other one you might ever consider captaining is Cancelo, and now is a bad time for him.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't advise anybody to either captain or triple captain anybody with Haaland this week, and I don't think anybody will.
No.
But the triple captaincy is not a big deal.
No.
I think a lot is made out of it. It's nice if it goes well, but it's not a big deal. I think it's a big deal if Mane gets injured in the first few minutes of a double game week and Salah goes on and scores a massive amount of points.
Mark, why are you bringing that up again? I mean, people are moving on now.
Sorry.
It's fine. People aren't waking up screaming still, I hope. Anyway, look, you've referred to a couple of players in your teams then. So that's where Mark's at right now, guys, right around that sort of 91k. So let's take a look at the team that's got him there. So, Mark, this is how the team's set up right now. And I should say that we are recording Sunday night. So there is still one fixture remaining of double game week 19, I guess, with Chelsea still to play Fulham sometime in the future from when this video is being recorded. But this is how you set up. Obviously, the bench has also got the likes of Luke Shaw, Andreas Pereira, and Reece James. So a lot of money, I guess, and FPL assets tied up on the bench there. But also you've got those 2 free transfers. So, guys, the fixtures that you're looking at here, we decided to look at next 2 fixtures, but obviously there's been a change since we prepared the content. So Man United have that double game week that we referred to as well. So, Mark, how are you thinking about changing this team in relation to double game week 20? You've got those 2 free transfers. You've got options on the bench. Without a leading question, what are your transfer plans for double game week 20?
So initially, I would have gone with that team I would have gone with this team had I not made transfers. But the immediate thing that we've learned in the last hour about United playing Palace in addition to their existing fixture, is that Shaw would come in instead of Bueno. That's easy. Even going badly, we expect Shaw might get 3 points.
Sure.
Fine. I'm not going to move him because James is still on my bench. I had Shaw from the wild card, so there was no compelling reason to move James. Number one, I had 3 players who could play. Number two, I don't really see anybody outside of Shaw who really draws me in. So Shaw will be in that team instead of Bueno. Then I didn't fancy Foden in the wild or Cancelo in the wild card, so I went with Foden. And obviously he's been testing my patience, but he's going to stay. He scored today. You have to think he's good for one start over the double. So he's going to stay.
Okay.
So I got 2 transfers. The thing that immediately jumps out is to move Mitrovic back to Martial, having just done the opposite this week. But that's fine. If I hadn't got Mitrovic this week, I would have either captained Haaland or Pereira. I would have done things that got me less points. So I'm quite happy just to move Mitrovic back to Martial and bank the other transfer, I think.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Mark, have you considered trying to shoehorn Harry Kane into the team at all?
Yeah, I could do it by selling Foden and Darwin. That could happen. Obviously, when he started scoring on Wednesday night, I was obviously fiddling around straight away trying to do that. But anyone who has a reasonably long memory might remember a scenario where a player went into a double on 4 yellows and he got a yellow in the first game.
Who could you be referring to?
This can happen again. And I know there's a phrase, fool me once, you're the fool me twice.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I consider it.
Yeah.
Probably not brave enough to try it again.
I see. That makes sense. And from Spurs, I mean, gosh, they've been a strange outfit, haven't they? They're sort of performing comparatively well in terms of the points they're picking up in the league, but topsy-turvy in terms of the level of the performance. Is there anyone else from that Tottenham team that you'd recommend people look at? Maybe it wouldn't work for you necessarily, but is there anyone else that you'd be considering for Game Week 20 and beyond?
Yeah, I haven't had any Tottenham players all season, which is quite an unusual thing to get through half a season like that. One of the players I would have looked at to replace James, I was looking at Digne, Castagna, and Doherty.
Okay.
So I think, Doherty was more of a fanciful thought, what if, but I didn't think they'd keep a clean sheet at Palace. And I think the Palace game have switched people on to Spurs, but it was really unusual because in the first half, Palace were the better team. And I wasn't paying enough attention to actually see what happened at halftime in terms of what shape the teams were in the second half. I was around the house. I was just keep watching it on the TV as I passed. But something happened, and it was dramatic, and it makes Perisic, Doherty, and Kane very attractive. But then yesterday, did they revert to type? Maybe they did.
Yeah, and it was weird. I watched the game similarly, and they were very poor in that first half as well, and you wonder whether or not it was a Conte volley of abuse more than anything at half time, right? Rather than anything tactical. I'm not sure, but you don't think there's anything in the Heung-min Son, historically, coming off the Golden Boot season, anything there, or is that just too punty, too renegade a shout? What do you think about Son?
I think I'd have to move too much furniture to take that particular punt. I mean, Saka, Foden, Rashford, De Bruyne, it's all right.
Not bad, is it, Mark? It's not bad as a midfield setup. Yeah. Let's talk about Man United. So we mentioned the fixtures. Just a reminder, guys, they picked up, they got the Man City derby home game. They've obviously been in much better results-based form anyway, playing some teams you'd expect them to beat, I think it's fair to say. And then that away match at Crystal Palace. You're set up with Rashford and Shaw there, probably their best 2 points returners. Any thought to treble up, Mark, or even is there any other player that you'd recommend to the viewers in terms of Erik ten Hag's team? Got some defensive cheaper options, don't they, with the likes of Diego Dalot, who's now in competition for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Martinez coming back, Varane, etc. Anyone there?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I wouldn't have an issue with someone buying Dalot, but a person at this stage would probably prefer to get Luke Shaw, just because if they don't have him now, they've just been stung.
Yeah.
And secondly, Wan-Bissaka has, maybe he's not going to be first choice, but at least he's shown he's an option for Ten Hag. The preference in defence is clearly, the manager's preference is clearly going to be Varane and Martinez. Varane doesn't offer consistent fitness, and Martinez doesn't offer consistent threat and attack. Bruno gave a penalty to Rashford on Friday. If Bruno's not taking penalties, why are you getting him? And Sancho, Anthony, Elanga, Garnacho, you can't count on them.
No, Garnacho's an interesting one, isn't he? It's so cheap, isn't he? For the few owners who have a Garnacho as their fifth mid who's just been sitting on the bench, do you think it's worth throwing him in for the double, or do you actually think, do you know what, it's just not likely to feature in the derby game, and thereupon you're better off, focusing elsewhere? I'm talking for owners who have him already.
I just don't know if it's worth it. He's going to be a constant pain trying to predict when he starts. He's not going to start two. He came off after 45 minutes against Wolves. Yeah, like it's a punt. There's no other word for it, and it could come off quite well. But there's three clear players that you might consider from United. I think.
Agree. And sorry, Mark. And from the other side of Manchester, your three there. You got Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland. You've talked about potentially triple captaining, and you got Phil Foden scored today in the FA Cup, and nothing defensively there. So owners of Cancelo have had a tough time of it. You mentioned. What's your advice to owners of Cancelo? Is it you stick with? He didn't start the game today in the FA Cup. What do you think about Cancelo as an option for the double and longer term?
There are things you expect of a premium player, and the first of those is that he is nailed. And when Cancelo's not nailed, I don't think he's worth the money. I think it's questionable if he's worth the money anyway. Okay. I think he was sixth last season, and at that he was very good value. At 7.2, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. At 7.2 and not assured of a starting position, he's not. I kind of took a position on him for this wild card, kind of looking back on the first part of the season. He made two really big mistakes. He made the Liverpool mistake where Salah rolled him on the halfway line, and he made the mistake against Fulham where he fouled the player. And Guardiola really spoke very clearly on that afterwards. He said, it's a mistake. I've told him, just let them score. We'll get back into it. And that was in my head when I was thinking about doing my team. And then on the Thursday before the resumption of the league, he didn't even get a single minute against Liverpool. And I began to think he's on the naughty step.
And so it's proven, right? So there's a good answer. But in terms of, let's say, fantasyfootballfix.com users watching this video who own him, is it just you suck it up and you start him for this double? Or would you look to...
Absolutely, yeah.
Even if you've got two free transfers, you wouldn't look to use it to reconstitute that? You think it's just you stick with him?
If you have two free transfers, it's worth thinking about. Because I think you can look towards one of the other City defenders, but pick your poison. But at least if you go for Aki or you go for Akanji or Stones, you're getting this unreliable position for at least 2 million.
2 million less, that's it. And Stones has been good this season, hasn't he?
And we know Stones can perform very well, and we know that when he's on form, Guardiola likes him. And
that's true.
Guardiola has a history of picking and sticking a centre-back pairing.
Yeah, that's certainly true. So let's talk briefly. So we've focused on the double game week for game week 20 quite a lot there, Mark. Looking at the rest of the team then, you happy with the rest? You've got the double Arsenal contingent there in Ben White and Saka in the midfield. Both happy, both great value. Any plans to look to supplement or move them on? What are your thoughts on the Arsenal guys?
I think if we weren't going into a double, I'd very likely move. I'd either move Foden or Andreas to another Arsenal midfielder. Watching Odegaard is slightly terrifying at the moment, not owning him. But we're in a funny position with the Arsenal midfielders. I think the complete ownership of them all reaches around 100%. So it's really like the Newcastle defence. If you want to derive any benefit from the Newcastle defence or the Arsenal attack, you need a second player. And I think I would like to get us another Arsenal midfielder.
And that would be Odegaard, you think, based on his value, I guess, and not just his value, but his output.
It could be him. I could go back to Martinelli. I've always been a big fan of Martinelli. I had him a lot last season. I could take either, depending. I think all Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, all brilliant options. And I wouldn't say you're entirely crazy if they had a good run of fixtures to get all three.
Ooh, I like it.
I don't know if their fixtures are too good right now, but there could be a period, title run in maybe. They're all fit, they're all firing. Could be a good time to get them
Interesting shout. I like things like that where the elite managers are advocating for something a little bit out of the box. That's an interesting one. Look, Reece James tucked away third on the bench there. Mark, you've decided to keep with him for the time being. What are the plans there in relation to Reece James? So unfortunate to suffer that injury, and he's had an up and down season in terms of his points returns and his fitness. But yeah, what are your thoughts on him and Chelsea as a collective defensively?
I think Chelsea are a mess defensively. They have been for a little while. And I know this because I've had Kepa for a while, and even he had a huge haul against Villa, and it was purely because Villa were just getting so many shots away. So on James, you get James a special case. You get him because he's an elite attacker. He's one of the best footballers in the world, probably, when he's fit. In terms of moving him, the reason he's still there for me is there's no players that I'm prepared to spend a transfer on to move him until there's someone I want for a double.
And do you think a Matt Doherty, a pronunciation apologies for that, or maybe a Diego Dallo or someone like that would tempt you at all for game week 20?
Not Dallo. Doherty could.
Okay.
It's one of those ones where you kind of just lose the run of yourself with 10 minutes to the deadline, and you've done it.
Okay.
I'd rather retain the control not to get him. The thing about playing Bueno there is, if I did have to play him, which I now don't, I wouldn't mind if he didn't play. If he got a 0-pointer, I could live with it because so many defenders get 0-pointers. You better save a transfer than just deal with the 0 points.
Look, Mark, I'm a West Ham fan. He's got every chance of picking up more than a 0 in a home game against us at the moment.
Yeah, no. Well, he's going to be first sub now, so.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. You mentioned about moving Andreas on. Why is there a feeling that if circumstances had been different that you'd be looking to move Andreas on? Is that you not happy with his output, or just think you can get more from the Arsenal guys?
It's a combination of circumstances around this season. With Haaland permanent captain, I have built up some value, and I think there's a logic behind having a strong front eight for the rest of the season and trying to rotate people in and out. If I bring down De Bruyne or Darwin, I can have a good replacement and also have maybe Odegaard in there as well. But he's fine.
Of course.
He's fine.
Okay.
I have no problem with him per se.
No, not at all. I mean, the squad looks good, doesn't it, Mark? If we're being honest, I think I'm gonna put you on the spot now. Let's say it's 10 minutes to deadline right now. It's not, but let's say that it is. What are your two transfers going to be?
Okay, if I have to make two, I'll probably do Mitrovic to Martial and James to Doherty and take White out.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's hard to avoid the appeal of that double game week, isn't it? And United have been good, haven't they? Martial as well. Right now, there's just not that competition in the number 9 berth, right? For them to be to be rotating him. I mean, Marcus Rashford seems much more effective on the left. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it time and again over the last few games. I think, who did he get that? He got one goal cutting in off the right, but regardless, he's better off a touchline.
Yes. Yeah.
Martial, I think he's been managed well in terms of minutes. Maybe he'll get this midweek off against Charlton, and that might be the green flag for him to get 2 games next week.
Yeah.
He might have penalties. He's going to be involved in a team that's,
Yeah. And
they're unlikely to beat United or City, but they probably have a crack at Palace.
yeah, and it's a team that are currently 3rd in the league and have got a very realistic chance of finishing in top 4, right? So they're in every competition, I think, still. So games are coming thick and fast. Minutes might be a concern. We know Martial's had a long history of injury problems, hasn't he? But right now, he's fit. So I like that shout a lot, Mark, definitely. I think we've talked about everyone there. I think the only person I was really wondering about that we haven't talked about, you've talked about Kepa. You got on him early. Mendy's picked up, has to have surgery, as we know now. That's been reported. You just going to stick with it? Kepa now, still a cheaper option, and just trust that they're going to come good defensively?
Yeah, I think it's fine, especially when you've Ward there. When Kepa did get injured before Christmas, I had Ward come in and he started producing then.
Okay.
I think unless it's for maybe someone like Pope in a double, like, moving the goalkeeper, it's just mischief, really. Yeah. I could see Pope in my future. He's the best. I think he's the top scoring keeper so far. But for now, no need to change. Ward.
And who knows, right? We're recording this video before the Fulham game. He could have an absolute heroic haul there, right? Fingers crossed that's the case.
Yeah. He did make a bad mistake, but as you say, with Mendy having a confirmed injury, he's 100% safe. I think
he's going to be okay, isn't he, to continue? Yeah, that's absolutely right. So you're with 2 free transfers. Just before we wrap it up, Mark, let's say that the guys are sitting there with 1 free transfer. They've not been in the position to roll that second. Strategically, elite manager, lots of great ranks in the past. What would your advice be going into a double? Would it be to just use that 1 free transfer and just target for a double, or would you say actually -4, maybe even -8 is justified and really attack the double? Strategically, how do you see these doubles as you approach them?
Yeah, I'd say there's 3 strands to it. First of all, strategically, normally I would say, roll it if you can. Secondly, you might have some players in your team who don't look great this week. In that case, I think you're better off getting a player that you think will have a double soon.
Okay.
It doesn't happen this week. If you spend a transfer on a double for 20, it's when you're not going to spend on a transfer for a double in 21. You have limited transfers for free. And the third part of it is double game weeks are fun.
They are. They are.
When you mentioned me getting Doherty, I kind of think, I should roll it. But then I think, look, it's a lot more fun if I get Doherty. It's a lot more fun if I get Martial.
No kidding. And that's an important aspect. You're an elite manager, Mark. You've had amazing ranks and stuff, but it's still a game. These are the opportunities to really get huge hauls, which is why we play it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on Monday I was out and about, and I had in my head, I'm gonna be clever. I'm gonna get Digne. I'm gonna be calm about the double game week, and then I just capitulated. All right, I don't need this in my life. I'm getting Mitrovic. I'm captaining him.
Okay.
I don't need the hassle of being smart.
No, fair enough. Look, Mark, it's been a pleasure as always. Team looks set up well. Really intrigued to see how those 2 transfers actually play out. Obviously, a lot of time to elapse until another game to go as well, so things could change, but hopefully the guys have enjoyed watching. I'm sure they have. Any other thoughts that you want to get across before we wrap things up?
No. Thanks a million, Tom, for having me on again. Always love it.
Pleasure, man. We'll talk again really soon. Guys, if you've enjoyed the video, do please smash a like on the video on your way out, and do please drop a comment in below as well to let Mark know what you think of his team and what transfers he should make. And guys, do please enjoy the double game weeks. They are going to come thick and fast. So do stay subscribed to fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel for advice on those upcoming doubles. There'll be lots more content to come over the next few days and weeks, of course. And I look forward to talking to you all next week. Have a great game week, guys. Take care.